right? So income minus expenses equals discretionary income or deficit. Pretty simple, right? Now, what I'm going to discuss may seem very, very simple, and it is by design, right? Because finances is not complicated. I know you're going to talk to other people in the industry, and they're gonna some will try to overcomplicate it, but finance is super duper simple. All right. So, as one of the questions were when we talk about cash flow, when you look at your discretionary income, there's only two ways to increase discretionary income. Only two ways. Can anybody guess what those two ways are? Besides our secret agents in here. All right, there's only two ways. One way is to increase your income, right? And the other way is to lower your expenses. That's it. Only two ways. And what we're going to discuss in the cash flow section is how do we increase income, or what is the proper way to really increase income, and how do we lower or manage expenses. Everybody got it? All right. So the first part we're going to talk about really quickly is how to increase discretionary income, or how to increase your income. Now, when I say increase your income, most people automatically go to, well, I got to go out and get, we talk about making more money, right? So when I say make more money, most people say, I got to go out and get a part-time job, right? Now, I'm not going to discredit that. But as we get more educated and we learn more and we see more, what you'll realize is that that is not the only option, and that is actually not the best option. And here's where I'm going with that. First and foremost, there is a book that I would recommend that you guys take some time and read at some point. It's called the Cashflow Quadrant, and it's by an author called Robert Kiyosaki. Now, I'm not going to try to spell that for you because I don't know, and I will just watch that last name up. But he is the same author that did Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if you are familiar with that book, that concept. Yes. It's called the Cashflow Quadrant. Now, I'll go over briefly what he talks about there. All right? The Cashflow Quadrant, what he does is he outlines the benefits that you have he's able to distinguish on different types of income generating options that you have, and he goes over the pros and cons to each and every one of them. Here's what I mean. I'll go over it really briefly. The first one is an employee, where most people start out in life as an employee, right? You get a degree and they say, well, you'll get a nice paying job, all right? The issue with being an employee is the fact that you actually have the least amount of benefits when it comes on to taxes, right? And here's what I mean by that. The reason why you do is because we always have to look at who's taking the financial risk when you're talking about making income, right? So you help me out here. Who's taking the risk when you're an employee for a company? Is it you, the employee, or the employer? Who's taking the financial risk? The employer, right? So the tax benefits go to the person who's taking the risk, or the company who's taking the risk. So it would be the employer. All right? Now, why is getting a part-time job not always the best route when we talk about increasing income? And it always has to come back to taxes. You ever notice whenever we get into the political season and you have the battle between the right and the left and the independents, they're always talking about taxes? You know the reason why that is? Is because there are 4 enemies to your wealth. 4 enemies. Guess what the number 1 enemy is? Taxes. If you were to do a study, or if the study hasn't been done already, but if you were to take a percentage, let's say if you take all the income that you'll make in your lifetime, right? And you take a percentage of what is the percentage that you think taxes play in your overall income generating life? What percentage would you say that it is? 60. What was that? 40%. That's actually very, 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 very close. It's 30% or more, right? So in your lifetime, you're going to pay over 30% in taxes. And we haven't talked about living expenses. We haven't talked about, all the other responsibilities that you have. Just the taxes alone, you can just take out 30% right there. All right? So understanding your taxes is crucial. All right? Now, why do we talk about taxes being, when we talk about a part-time job per se? All right? Let's do an example here. Let's say you make $40K a year, right? $40K a year. And let's say your tax bracket is 25%. And let's say you say to yourself, well, I want to be more aggressive with my savings, so I want to go ahead and make more money. So I'm going to go out there and get a part-time job. You do very well, and you make an additional $10,000 for that year. So now you made $50K a year, right, for the next year. But what you didn't take into account is the fact that you might have just put yourself in a higher tax bracket when you did that. Because do most people actually calculate things based on their tax bracket? Not at all. They're just like, let me go and make some more money, right? So do you ever notice, if you ever tried this before, that you make more money and you actually bring home less? That's why. All right? Now, I'm not saying this is the worst option in the world. I'm just saying, after I go through all of them, you be the judge. All right? So, employee is one. All right? Then, let's say, for instance, you get educated a little bit and you say, well, what are other options? Well, the other option is to become self-employed. Right? So now, these are the restaurant owners, right? These are the grocery store or the gas station owners. Now, the benefits are you make more money, right? Right? However, the challenge is you have all of the responsibility here, right? Here's what I mean by that. Not only you may save on some taxes, but the challenge is here is, although you save a little bit in taxes here, you actually increase when we talk about time and effort, right? So, let's say you're the restaurant owner. Can you take a day off if you're the restaurant owner? How many hours do restaurant owners work? Tons, right? Tons, right? So if they don't go in and push the key to that restaurant, they make zero money. And now they have all the responsibility as a self-employed individual, right? Because now they have a staff, now they have a building, so they have way more responsibility. All right? So people get tired of being an employee, they say, well, I'll become self-employed. But what you actually end up doing is now you go from having a job to actually owning the job. All right? Now we get a little smarter and we learn a little bit. We take some courses, and then Robert Kiyosaki talks about the next phase, which is a business owner. Now, what is the difference between a self-employed individual and a business owner? All right? You got it. So these are individuals that have a staff. Well, they're using a philosophy or a concept called leverage. And what leverage means is that I would rather get a 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own. I'm gonna say that again. I would rather have 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own. I didn't make that up, by the way. J. Paul Getty, the oil tycoon, made that statement popular, or he knows that quote. All right. What does that mean? Because you're using leverage, you're able to now use now these are individuals like real estate brokers, and in our field, financial advising brokers and things of that nature. Why? Because now we can train other people to do the same thing that we do, right? And then we get a percentage of whatever they do, and because of their efforts, I get compensated because I train you. I get compensated on whatever you do, right? Or in a traditional sense, if I have a business and now I have a staff, right? I'm building off the efforts of them because now I can train somebody to be a manager, and then I could open up another restaurant or whatever the case may be, or